How to Be a Successful Black Man, a book written by Dr. Daniel LaRoche. It's an easy read and a great book for families, kids, grandkids, nieces, and nephews to help give pearls for success. Available for purchase online on Amazon and more. I got mine. Go get yours. Link is in the description.
Welcome to another episode of the Hip Hop Uncensored Podcast. I'm your brother, old guy from Hip Hop News Uncensored, and sitting across from me is my co-host.
What up, y'all? It's your man, Sam, and Viral Hip Hop News. You're in the building for another edition of the Hip Hop Uncensored Podcast. Like my cousin said, we got a very special guest in the building. We got the OG,
yes,
Lavell Crawford on the podcast, man. It's a special one for us, man. How you doing today, brother?
I'm well, man. How y'all doing?
Blessed, man. Very happy to have this Tuesday with you, man. It's an honor. We were supposed to have this yesterday and was very excited to start the week off, but we had some things going on. Very happy to have you on today, man. Been watching you since babies and been watching you now as adults with our own kids, man. Seeing you on Comedy Vaccine, the latest Showtime special you dropped, funny as hell. And I want to start there because I think the doper part about it was you had your son with you and he actually opened up for you. So can you talk about that, having your little man open up for you and having aspirations to do what his dad didn't be a comic?
Well, I mean, I don't know if he want to be a comic, but he want to be a Hollywood actor. That's what he keeps telling me. And so I said, well, I'm gonna get you your little debut, man. You know, and I mean, it's so crazy that because probably, I guess almost 11 years ago, my wife was pregnant with him on my first hour special I did for Showtime, and it was all over, you know, Showtime E1 Productions. Can a Brother Get Some Love Now? It's on Netflix, and it kind of started everything off. So he was there, but he wasn't there.
Yeah.
It was great to have him up there, and he's very brave. I mean, I told him, I said, you're a brave kid because a lot of people can't even do Easter speeches at church, and you sit up here on a Showtime special introducing your dad. So it was pretty good.
Awesome. Now, you were telling a story one time sitting in an interview about, you know, how you got started as a comedian. Early on, you said, you know, kids were pretty much making fun of you, you know, because you're a little heavy. But you said you kind of flipped it and noticed that they have, you know, not perfect as well, started busting back on them. So were those like the days where you kind of were cultivating yourself and your skills to become a comedian?
Well, yeah, I guess it was all what they call training camp. Because, I mean, when you're a fat kid, you know, that's the first day. And it wasn't all kids, it was adults too, you know. Stop eating all that bread. That's why you're chunking now. You know how it is, you know. Everybody a nutritionist, but they eating wrong, smoking weed, drunk as hell. It got 1 foot cut off, still eating pound cake, but want to tell you how to do your job, you know.
Right.
You know, I mean, sitting up here, she like, give me another piece of that chicken, girl. You know, I mean, you know, I know I got high blood pressure, but that seasoning is just on point. And then if they lose 5 pounds, they're a dietitian. You know how it is. Got to eat on paper plates instead of them styrofoam. That's why that styrofoam keep the grease on.
You were telling a story on Comedy Vaccine is when you were younger and used to go to school and bring the Vienna sausages and eat the Vienna sausages, and then your mom when they had the peanut butter and jelly on the hot dog roll. That shit was funny as hell. Is that a true story?
And then, you know, they had to cut a little bit out because I was telling the whole story because he talking about how he hated school. But that's a true story. My mom made a peanut butter and jelly sandwich on a hot dog bun. But I took it. I wasn't even embarrassed. All I did was eat the jelly and the peanut butter out the middle, you know, and went on about my business.
Right. So those were the beginning days. So what did you actually, I heard you used to rap before as well. Now, when did that come into play? Was that before the comedy, around the same time?
Well, I mean, that was, you know, how you transitioned into trying to find out what you could do. I was flunking in college, but I was up there winning talent shows, doing funny rhymes, joining people in rhymes, you know, making up stuff on the fly, you know, and you know, beatboxing. That was, you know, the Fat Boys was big, and I would beatbox, and I won. I took 3rd place in the contest because everybody was in the group. They got scared. They got stage fright, and I stayed up there beatboxing, and I started rapping, and the people said, "Man, you great." But you know, I didn't know how hard it was to be a rapper. Then I met Sinbad, you know, as my man, because we doing big shout out to Sinbad. We doing
Yes,
sir.
this Monday for his tribute, because Sinbad had a stroke,
Yeah.
and he's what you call the comparable road warrior. You know what I'm saying? All us comedians get out on this road eating. It's hard for our families to understand. We be out there trying to get this money, because back when we couldn't get it, it was it was scary. But now we can get it. You try. It's feast of famine. And he had a stroke, man. We sorry to hear that, because he had this surgery to put him down. Then he had the stroke, and he's still kind of bedridden. He's getting around, but not as good. So we doing his benefit on Monday for him in Nashville at the theater. It's Faison Love, Arnez J. I mean, it's some heavy hitters on it. Bruce. It's a nice little tribute, man. Then all funds go to him and his family, man, and just help him out. Because a lot of comedians we don't get stimulus checks. We don't get nothing from the government, but we are essential people. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. That's 100. And it's dope that you put a comedy special out during the time that you did, because we had Hope Flood on here, Miss Hope Flood, and she gave us a great interview, and shout out to Miss Hope Flood. But she went on and said that there's nothing funny to talk about right now. Nothing's funny. And she went on to talk about everything that we're going through, and you flipped it. You did the opposite, and you went in on every fucking thing. And I thought it was great, and it was needed. And you were unapologetic about it in a society where I think comics are almost afraid to be unapologetic because of all this shit that goes on with cancel culture and things like that. You didn't care. Talk about how that went into your show, like just being you.
Well, see, I guess you can call me OG, because man, all my heroes was rebels. I mean, George Carlin, Richard Pryor, Red Fox. What made them great was they went against the grain. I don't respect the comedian that ain't that's not fearless. You can only talk about sex so long, but you gotta be able to reinvent yourself several times. And hell, if you can't talk about it, it ain't worth it. The person living, because even they say no press is bad press, even negative press is positive press. So if somebody talk about you, like they're talking about Floyd Mayweather right now, talking about laughing at him for fighting the little white kid, what's his name?
Logan Paul.
Because I don't even consider him a boxer. But the sad thing about it is, there's some great boxers out there that probably won't never get that shine to fight somebody great like Floyd. But this dude got in there, and I wish Floyd would have beat the mess out of him real bad. But I think it was interesting, because they said it killed boxing, but I keep thinking it keeps boxing alive. Because nobody really going to the fight. Since Floyd never, Pacquiao is old, So I think it's when you look at it, like, if you're afraid to talk about it, maybe it's not funny to you because you don't write like that. But I think if you're not telling these jokes, people died, but people really put a lot of drama. I think they changed the antenna on something, made people real dramatic. Because we had Ebola, we had AIDS, they had a movie out called Philadelphia.
Tom Hanks
got an award for it. You know what I'm saying? Ebola brother died in front of the hospital because they wouldn't let him come in. But we forgot about that. We had the bird flu. We couldn't eat chicken. We had the swine flu. Couldn't eat pork chop. We had a lot of things. Mosquitoes was killing Negroes at one time. And my uncle had to stay in the house. He was locked down for 3 years because he had that Dracar oil on him, So, everything can be a joke. It's just the right time for the joke. And it's the thing about just touching it and dancing on it and coming off of it. Because, man, reality, I'm not going to sit up here and be a comedian and be afraid to touch something, because everything is funny. Death, talking about somebody personally who died, because we all forget about what a person done when they're alive, when they die. Oh, we're gonna miss him. And yeah, but when he was alive, he held somebody hostage in his basement for 6 years. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's how America is. We so fake, oh, ain't nothing funny now. But I don't agree with Hope. I mean, I love Hope good people, but I just don't agree with it. I mean, if you can talk about sex, you can talk about everything else. You know, that's why I'm with it on it. I'm cut different though. You know, I think that I'm always writing and I'm always on stage giving it to it because I don't want to get comfortable just talk about the same old thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it brings, guys like you to. I appreciate y'all watching the special. I honor that because a lot of people, a lot of times you put something out and people don't even watch it, and they be like, when your next special? Brother, I just did one last week. you know, so I mean, and I think content is content, and I respect people like Katt Williams, he got on stage 9 specials and kept it real and just talk about it, And I remember Katt, he was open for me. And then he became the man, and he didn't just stick to the pimping stuff. Katt talked about relevant, controversial things that comedians, you got to make it laugh because sometimes you make it laugh to stand in front of people and put it in their ear to make them understand, man, hey, man, sometimes we being bamboozled. I mean, we talk about this racism. Everything ain't racism. American Marcos is not racism because she just got Black Thursday. I mean, we gotta understand. We gotta be honest with ourselves sometimes as people, But in America, we got a lot of things that we need to joke about and put them out there because we get looked over as Black people all the time. And sometimes you got to make jokes about people who getting a break that we ain't getting,
Right.
And I just talk about everything. I mean, we had a pandemic. We was locked in the house. You don't have no jokes about being locked in the house.
Word.
You looking outside, birds flying around, the sun's still in the sky, but I'm locked in the house. I'm wearing a mask. I can't breathe. Everybody look like bank robbers. We sitting up here.
Right.
Some of these people, I've seen some people out of shape shouldn't have had no mask on. They can't breathe.
Yeah, what's funny about it, you were talking about, your style and how you do your jokes and everything, and you were talking about, how you kind of like turn like life situations in, to jokes. You made it one time you broke down on the highway, something you was talking about. But talk about that, like your freestyle, the way you freestyle and how you take regular life events and turn them into funny things like you're doing, like you did just a few minutes ago.
Oh, well, man, life is funny, man. And sometimes the most recent things that happen to you, people are laughing at because, I mean, that's a comedian. He brings his story to the stage, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm a news reporter with punchlines, you know what I'm saying? And I mean, and when you can once you can turn them into jokes, like even something that really happened to you, people like, man, that must have just happened. I said, yeah, it just happened outside. And they fall out laughing because they like, this dude crazy. He talking about because I mean that's just how I've always been. Because I believe that when you sit up and be afraid, for the consequences. I've been a badass kid. I got through off the church bus. I got my ass whooped for not having good grades, and I dealt with the consequences. But you know what? I lived through it and I moved on. I mean, but I'm not the voice of the world. I'm just talking. I'm not trying to change nobody's mind, but you should laugh at it. If you ain't gonna cry about it, you ain't gonna do nothing about it. You should laugh about it.
Facts. Appreciate you doing what you do, brother.
Yes.
Let me ask you this. You brought up Katt Williams, and Katt Williams has been doing his media circuit. And Katt, if you hear this, we'd love to have you on here on the Hip Hop Sense podcast as well. But he said Cedric the Entertainer stole his jokes, and I was, oh shit, never heard anything like that before. Do you know anything about that?
Well, you know what, man? I don't get in other people's business. I don't know nothing about it.
What?
I don't know. I don't know nothing about that. I mean, Katt and Sid need to talk about that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. How does that? Oh, go on. I'm sorry. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I cut you off, brother. I'm sorry. You could do your thing.
No. I'm just saying I don't get in people's business, man. I don't know about that. That's the first time I heard about that, and that's between Sid and Katt. I think they need to talk about it. They both got money, so I mean, whatever they can do it, maybe do a business transaction and backstage somewhere. I don't know, man.
Right. How common is joke thieves, though. Let's just talk about that as a grand, just whole. Like, is it comics out here really stealing other comics' jokes?
Oh, I mean, I've had some experience where a comic went up that I've been knowing for years and doing my act, and I front them about it. Oh man, I didn't know you did that. I said, dude, I've been knowing you for years, and you sat up there and did the joke. I don't even do it no more, but it was on Comic View and everything. So I mean, yeah, comics will snatch. I've seen famous comics snatch from me, and they was already famous, but they'll go on TV and do it, and it's already theirs because they got that kind of momentum and kind of power. You know what I mean? And that make themselves look like a genius. They done snatched your joke. So it's like, but then I think some comics say somebody stole their joke, and they'll do the premise. Now, a premise is different than the punchline, the verbatim joke.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? In my court of law of comedy stealing, if you do my joke straight up like the grocery store joke, you do that joke, you done stole that joke. And my mama hit me on the back of the heel and blah, 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 do that whole thing, you done stole my joke. Now, if you say, my mama took me in the grocery store and whooped my butt for putting some pickles in the basket, I can't say you stole my grocery store joke. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think it's levels, and I think premises, people steal premises, but I don't think they're stolen. I think, like I wrote a book, it's called the Comedy School Guide to Stand Up. And in that book, I write about joke writing. I said, everybody may write about the same subject, but it's just like seeing a fight. Everybody sees something different in that fight. Everybody sees something different in that car accident. Everybody sees something different in the crime. Everybody's story is going to be different. That's why they have to separate people at the first 48. Because somebody gonna tell part of the truth, somebody gonna tell their story, they side of the truth. You ever seen those sitcoms where they all like on Martin, where they show how him and Gina met, and they all told their story. Mm-hmm. Nobody had the true story. You understand what I'm saying? Everybody threw an underlay or underlie, but in the joke world, that's how comedy is. You may talk about, be on the positive side of Joe Biden. You might be on the negative side of Joe Biden. You might say Kamala Harris is black. You might think she's black. You know what I'm saying? It's so many things that come into play that in writing. So I don't know if he stole it verbatim. I mean, he got a case. I don't know what he's talking about.
Gotcha.
Now, I heard you talking one time in an interview, talking about how the mainstream only allows one black comedian at a time. You talked about Katt Williams' era, Kevin Hart's era. Do you still hold to that is only allowed one black comedian to be in the mainstream? And if you do,
when I say that, I just say in the mainstream, but I think that don't. It does. I think you still can get your fame because there's enough money out here for everybody. But I just say like where the public eye, where they think, Hollywood, how Hollywood address it. Because some people follow Hollywood to say who they think is famous instead of. And thank God for social media, doesn't really change the whole game. Is the social media has changed where people are relatively getting closer to the ones they have seen. Thank God for Netflix, and all the streaming. Streaming didn't change that, where at one time, in Hollywood, you might see they'll hype up one person that they want to make the star, and that's what I meant by that, but now it's totally didn't change, that didn't change, my whole idea of that has changed because Hollywood tries to cultivate funny, and they can't really cultivate funny. Funny has to be funny, you know what I'm saying? No matter what they do. But I mean, and then the eras that I look at Katt, I look at Kevin, both of them guys are funny to me. So they got their money's worth. They product was legit. You know what I'm saying? I mean, so now some acts, get there and they do they thing. I be saying, okay, that's something Hollywood want to do, and I don't judge. I don't judge because I'm still relevant. I'm still President Lavell Crawford, still busting heads, still making people laugh. And people call me OG. Some people call me a GOAT. Some people call me legendary. And I said, man, I still ain't scratched the surface of my fame, but I thank God I'm still in the race.
Cool.
Right. Do you also talking about, certain comedians when they get a certain level of fame, they kind of got to water down their jokes. Do you still think that's the same with some of the comedians that they get to a certain level and it's like, you know what? Let me kind of tone it down and not really go against the grain like I used to.
Well, I don't. This is what I say meant about that is, when I say things, it ain't that money. When you live in a different life, you live in a better life. It's less. Because a lot of comedy comes from stress. A lot of comedy comes from, you know, situations. But when you start, your situation gets better and brighter. Because my life is getting better and brighter, but I still have things I can talk about. I've been through my past. And some people, once they get to a collective life, when you go to Dubai on a private jet, ain't nothing you can talk about no more. When you sitting up here, yeah, I'm at the Rolls Royce dealer, and they don't want to give me the discount I'm looking for. You know what I'm saying? It's a hard sell for somebody still out here shopping their food for less. You know. But you have to find those ways of digging into those worlds, And I think that when you start studying your audience and studying where you come from, because no matter where I'm at, Lavell Crawford has been through a lot of the same things everybody else got out there, and every comedian that made it, they done been through those things. So no matter how much money you get, you can dive into that. I don't think you have to water down, but I think a lot of times when you get comfortable, you do. And things do change. I mean, it's things and then you ain't been out on and I think that when they get watered down is because they not able to go to the let's say one night of comedy clubs where the crowds are not as easy to deal with. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, when you deal with them, and and you used to going where you could say, "Hey, I'm gonna be here," and all your fans show up. Sometimes you might want to be nice to pop up somewhere where they ain't your fans. Man, we was in there playing Being Weird. What are you going on stage telling jokes for? You know what I mean? And you can still make them laugh. That's when you keep a certain edge. But I mean, when you live in a certain life, it changes. That's where we are. And I sure, when the millions start kicking in, where I look up and I done made more than two, and it's about 15 in there, I might be like, I was eating my croissant today, and it wasn't as buttery as usual. I don't know what kind of. I should talk to Whole Foods about their croissant.
That should still be funny though. That's the funny part about it. Yeah. That's the fucking funny part about it. Let me ask you, have you seen any of Kwame Brown stuff? Any Mama's Cooking?
I've seen Kwame Brown, and I just don't have nothing to say about it, because my whole thing is I think he got mad, and he had every right to get mad, because you bring up people's family and stuff, and like I said, that's between him and Charlemagne. Kwame Brown going hard. He had Joe Brown on one of his podcasts, and I love Judge Joe Brown because Judge Joe Brown don't give a you understand me? Judge Joe Brown don't.
Hello?
Yeah, Judge Joe Brown goes so hard. It's hilarious. But I think Kwame Brown is interesting, I mean, I think Charlemagne opened up a can of worms that he didn't really want to open up, because that brother there, I don't know, and he telling some legit stories, man. That's kind of sad, how the media can destroy you, I mean, and I just, I pray that he gets his justice. You know what I'm saying?
Right, and that's kind of what I wanted to expound on, was that part, when he talks about the go along, get along gang, and how there's certain factions within the media, and in particular, when he was talking about athletics, when he was talking about the go along, get along gang, the black media within sports. But do you think that there's a go along, get along gang in every faction of entertainment when it comes to black entertainers, comics, athletes, actors, whatever the case may be? Is there a go along, get along gang?
I don't never want to agree. I agree to disagree on everything, because I don't want to get caught up in. Yeah, they said, because I remember I was on Vlad TV and I said something out of the ordinary, and I just, I think that staying neutral is a a better way to say that. I think that you're gonna always have those formalities, and I think that you just gotta just pass by them and keep on moving forward and staying hard on what you believe. Because as long as you stay true to you, I mean, go along, get along, whoever, they can't stop you. You understand?
Right.
And in this game is so powerful. It's just like your podcast, how you blowing up, and you got you so you going viral. Your guests are big. I
Thank you.
mean, people could easily shoot you down. All these guys are bogus, this and that. But you got to take they bogus and come back and show them, man, ain't nothing bogus about me. I'm real and organic.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Talk about the death of Paul Mooney, if you may. And did you know him?
I knew Paul, man. I mean, it was an honor to know him, man. I think Paul Mooney, he was one of those guys that didn't care about what people thought, And I, he will be missed. I know he had been sick and everything, and I think that I got to work with him a couple of times. And one thing about Paul Mooney, he don't care about time. He don't care. He don't care about hurting nobody's feelings. He never cared about none of that. And he would go up, if a comedian did, let's say I was up there in this one comedy club in DC and it was owned by this comic, he would go up and do an hour and 50 minutes. And then I had to go up and do my hour. And then I'll be up there and I get lost. I'll be being funny and I lose track of time. I'm up there an hour and 25. And then Paul will go up there after everybody and do 2 hours. Just talking until the last person in there, even if he vacuuming the floor. And Paul Mooney would talk and keep it real. And I mean, I seen him walk people out that didn't like his jokes. He would follow him out the door. He was something else. And I mean, but he was unapologetic. That was the most powerful thing about Paul. He was unapologetic. And I think I love that. I mean, because I look at like Corey Holcomb. I think Corey Holcomb goes hard, but he stays true to him. And I think that when a comedian doesn't worry about what people think of you, you can become great. Yeah. And it takes time. I mean, and I don't want to impound on someone going in so bad. Like it's some people that's just real horrible to people and say things out of character for anything. But if you out there and being funny and talking about your life experience and what you did, I think those are funny. I think that's real funny stuff, and you breaking it and you personalizing it, that's you.
We're talking about also somebody that we lost, one of the comics that were unapologetic was Patrice ONeal. And I was watching his special a couple months ago, and that joint was captivating as hell to me. I forgot what it was called, but I had a bunch of comics on there reflecting on his life and stuff. Did you know Patrice? And if you did, what was some of your fondest memories with him?
Well, I knew Patrice, and I met him. I honestly only met him one time. Okay. He was outside the Comedy Union, and he was going to the strip club, and I said, I'm going home. I'm married. So you ain't get me out there, man. Him and my boy went somewhere, and I said, I'm out. And then he was a wild boy, anyway. But he seemed funny. But my honest view on Patrice was, I watched him on a roast, and I think he wasn't that strong. But then I seen his specials, and I was like, this brother a monster. Mm-hmm. And I had to learn about him more after his death than before he died. And everything they say about Patrice is real deal. And I think that being in New York, and as funny as this brother was, he wasn't handed his gauntlet that he deserved. And I it's a sad thing, but I mean the brother, he was legendary. His stuff that he said, his metaphors was so creative. Mm-hmm. I think that, man, I mean, he will be missed. He will be missed.
Absolutely.
Did you get a chance to hear a couple of weeks ago Bill Cosby was denied parole? What are your thoughts about him being denied parole in that whole situation?
Well, I mean, I think he's just being used as a situation, and I don't know. It's strange. That whole thing is strange to me. I won't even I'm a conspiracy theorist, but I won't let my stuff out on any interview. But I just think they just use him as an example, and I don't know what it is. I mean, the man's 70 some years, about 80 years old almost, and it's a shame. So I'm good. I'm praying for him and his family, and I hope everything work out. I mean, it's weird. That's all I can say. It's a weird situation.
Did you know him? Did you ever meet him before?
No, I never met Mr. Cosby.
Okay.
That's one thing. I never got to meet the brother. I would have loved to meet, because Bill Cosby as a comic is legendary to me. Bill Cosby is this inmate thing is different. And I mean, I ain't saying he has something to do with it, but I'm not in that, and I'm not a judge. I'm not a judge and jury. So it's a sad situation to put on a mark. The brother changed, our view of Black America. We had the good times, and then we had the Jeffersons, and then we had the Huxtable family come up and showed us as collegiate people, and that was very iconic what he did. And for that to be marred in what it was, it's kind of sad.
Yeah, indeed. You were also just kind of transition back into your comedy special, Comedy Vaccine. And for the people who have not seen Comedy Vaccine, go to Showtime right now. They got apps and all kind of wild shit you can go check this joint out on. Funny as hell. You talked about Texas, man, and all the shit that y'all were going through. And you said as Black people, we ain't ready to survive. You had to go with your white friends because they ready to survive the apocalypse and broke that shit down. Talk about how serious it was in Texas for us. And watching it in Jersey was a sight to see, because going to below 30 ain't nothing unusual for us. We see that shit all the time. But how was it in Texas?
Man, I mean, bro, right now it's 91 degrees, all right? And we just in the top part of June. Think about by November and December, and then what that happened, that was strange enough. It was already cold. It was already hitting them 35s, right? And it was me and my wife's wedding anniversary. And we were celebrating. We didn't go far. We were going, since the lockdown, you couldn't really go nowhere, but they was kind of opening up in Texas. We were going to go take a little 6-hour drive down this resort. And we wound up just staying close because they were talking about weather. But they always threatening weather. We didn't think nothing about it. But then we looking out the windows, laying up in the bed, and we seen sheets of ice coming down. Like, I mean, I'm looking like, well, let me get right with Jesus. I mean, Houston don't get ice like that. I mean, it snowed one time and it evaporated. And, I mean, the snow, it disintegrated as soon as it hit the atmosphere. Man, they had piles of sleet and snow. And thank God, my wife's from Chicago. I'm from St. Louis. I know how to drive on ice. But I seen people having a hard way to go. I've never seen so many people walking in my life. And I mean, people was getting ice. I mean, everything was shut down. Our toilets, our water. I mean, I said, man, we went from one lockdown to another one, boy. We was in bad shape. And we in this new house. We moved in. We had just bought this house. We didn't know that we had electric situations where we could turn the fire on. We didn't know nothing. My son, thank God, my oldest son, he found out you can use batteries. We had plenty of batteries, and we had a generator, but we lost the key. Thank God for our neighbor coming over. He had to turn it on for us. We was horrible in this apocalypse, man. But my wife was strong because I was snapping, sleeping with our clothes on, man. But people was going through it that didn't know how to survive. I mean, one thing about a warm climate, one thing you can get away with just surviving. You can eat outside. And some people brought their grills inside trying to warm up on the grill. And like I said, people died from charcoal smoke, woke up in heaven.
That's funny.
It was sad that people went through that. But I mean, this weather caught us off guard. And I mean, besides the ice, the temperatures was like 8 degrees, man. I think it got down to 8. And I mean, that wasn't no joke for nobody, man. No water. And it seemed like that's when you had to use the bathroom up when the toilet ain't working. That was the worst. So thank God we had bought this generator, and we started learning how to use it. But We invested in this home generator. We waiting on getting them, but they on back order. But man, we ain't going through that crap no more. I was like, dang, I ain't know Houston get down like that. We moved down here 6 months before Hurricane Harvey, and we went back to LA. Then we down here in the winter of the century.
Damn.
And Houston, that shit was crazy.
Man, it was crazy, but we know, thanks to the Lord above, God had us covered. We didn't have to suffer too long, because I know some people went through more than we ever would. And we still here popping and popping. Only thing we complain about, that's when you're living in the suburbs. We call the trash people, because the ice froze our lids on our trash can and broke them, and we complain about that.
Right. 2 questions. Do you still do the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? And talk about your weight loss journey as well. You lost a lot of weight, over the course of time. What was your secrets to that as well?
Yeah, oh yeah, I still do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, man. I go to Katana Academy here in Spring, Texas. My professor is Mr. Calvin Carter, brother, who is almost he's a red stripe black belt in Jiu-Jitsu and Taekwondo and Muay Thai. And I love the art. I started getting into it in LA. My wife was getting me hyped on it, and she was going down to the Gracie Academy, which I love. Wish I would have started there, but I started at Gracie Burbank, and I was doing it. I had the ultimate submission back then, because I was weighing about 500 pounds. It was called the titty tap. Once I get on top of that face, it was a tap out. I was winning a mini match with the titty tap. Ain't nobody want no 500 pounds of Negro on top of their face with no shirt on. You understand?
That was actually my last question to you with jiu-jitsu, because I do jiu-jitsu as well, and I know how of an incredible sport and art it is to do. And especially when you get around people that are like-minded and doing it, it's really incredible. And I got my kids, and it's real dope, and it was dope to see you in it. But I guess my last question for you would be,
well, that's why I got my son in. My son was into it. We got him into it. But The only way I thought I would keep him in is I joined, because he joined like he was 4 years old, but he seen his daddy in the gig, and he was like, wow. And so that kept him interested. And I wanted to do it a long time ago, but I just I always, he was talking about my weight loss, and before I lost weight, man, I was an active big dude. I just never made overweight a crutch. And like these shows like 600 Pound Life and all this stuff, I never understood that life, because I was always out there doing it. I never thought I was that big. That's why when you say the weight loss journey, I always tell people my advice was I never saw myself as overweight. When they call me fat, I say ain't nothing fat on me but my wallet, nigga. And I used to have, I always used to think myself different than I actually look. And that's why I got my beautiful wife, and that's why I'm blessed to do the things I did, because I never stopped being who I was. Now, I never made it a crutch. And the thing about it was, I'm writing this book called Two Sides to a Comedian, because on stage I was a roaring lion, but off stage I was like a crying nerd, because on stage I was hilarious and funny, but off stage I would go into this little shell. I would go, because I felt a certain way, because people didn't like me because I was big. So because you start believing other people and what they thought of you instead of what you believe yourself. If you see yourself the way you are, then no one should ever tell you where you look. And then when I had the weight loss surgery, the only reason I had that surgery is because I my high blood pressure came up, and the diabetes got out of control, man. I would eat sweets and stuff, and the sugar didn't have nowhere to go. It went through my liver. Then it started coming out my skin. I had giant boils on my back, and I don't even know why my wife stayed with me, boy. I'd have been and left me a long time ago. but in the same mind frame, the weight loss, my baby sister, she had the weight loss surgery. And when she came out of flying colors looking beautiful, I said, I got to do it for myself. And I didn't know how I was blessing other people to do it.
Word.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate your time. The legendary Lavell Crawford on the Hip Hop Uncensored Podcast. It's truly been an honor. Drop your social media handles. Anything else you'd like to plug before we get up out of here, brother? The floor is yours.
Yes, sir. Just Instagram, you go on there, Lavell, LAVELLS, the comic, THACOMIC, the comic. And also you can go to Facebook. It's Lavell, comedian Lavell Crawford. You go to my website, comedian Lavell Crawford. That's comedian LavellCrawford.com. COMED, spell comedian, and my name, Lavell, no E, CRAWFORT.com. You can look at my booking information, look at my dates, and I got 2 books out coming out. I got one book called Fishing with My Big Daddy coming out soon. It's a children's book, and I got a comedy guide to stand up that's on Amazon right now. You can go get it, learn about that, and that's it. And I appreciate you guys.
Appreciate you as well, brother. Much success to you. Continued success.
Indeed.
Definitely.
Thank you, Hip Hop Uncensored. I appreciate y'all for bringing me on. Y'all take care of yourself.
Honors all ours, brother. Thank you. Lavell Crawford on the podcast. Salute.
All right. Be safe, brother. Peace.